Welcome to Opening Soon, a podcast where we interview retail founders about how they started and run their brick-and-mortar businesses. I'm your host, Alan Lee. I run Signs and Mirrors, where we make beautiful signs and furniture for retail stores. I also help run PhotoLab, a self-portrait studio with locations in New York City and Houston. Today's guest, Sheridan St. is the founder of Symmetry Pilates, a studio based in St. George, Utah. Sheridan was previously a gymnast and used Pilates to help avoid double shoulder surgery at the age of 19. We dive into how Sheridan launched her studio at the beginning of COVID when she was just 23, created an on-demand Pilates mobile app, and now runs a fully booked out studio. Sheridan, thanks so much for taking the time. We're excited to have you on the Opening Soon podcast.
Thanks, Alon. I'm so excited to be here.
So before we get started into Symmetry, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background, what you were doing before, and what got you inspired to starting a Pilates studio.
Well, my name's Sheridan St. I opened Symmetry Pilates in St. George, Utah, but there was kind of a lot of things that happened leading up to opening a Pilates studio. It definitely wasn't what I had originally planned, but I was a gymnast before, and I kind of had developed like a love for discipline and fitness and that sort of thing. But when you get older, there's not that much to go off of from there. You know, once you're an athlete, it kind of feels a little lost in the world. And I wasn't doing like college gymnastics or anything like that. So just kind of had to shift my focus, I guess you could say, on how I was going to work out and how I wanted to move my body and that sort of thing.
How long were you doing gymnastics for?
I did it all the way up until about 9th or 10th grade. And then I shifted to try like dance and cheerleading and some other things. And then I kind of just, was like, gave up on that. I was just moving on with my life, I guess you could say. It's almost like when you get older as an athlete, either you do that as your full-time gig or you're done. Like there's nowhere to go really after that.
Makes sense.
And I had started a program in Utah for exercise science, and they kind of tell you when you start that, like, either you're going to go on to be a physical therapist or, that's about it. And I was like, okay, well, great. And so I took a semester to do study abroad, and I did my, some schooling in Florence, Italy.
And I love Florence. It's so beautiful there.
Oh my God, it was incredible. And I was like, no one really like works out here. It's very hard to find a quote unquote gym, a regular fitness facility.
Yeah.
And I had tried Pilates just before I went there, and I went and thinking, I wish I had somewhere to work out and somewhere that was like Pilates where you can rehab, but you can also do something that pushes you, kind of how gymnastics did, where you learn new things and you strive for new goals. So I didn't do a whole lot of fitness there, but I realized like everyone's very fit. And, how is that?
I feel like everyone says when they go to Europe, they come back losing 5 or 10 pounds, even though they stuff themselves with pasta.
It's so real. It's so real. I was shocked. I was like, how is this possible? And I wasn't working out. I would, here and there go to like the little gym that was around, but nothing like you would expect in the States where you have to work out every day and you have to do X, Y, and Z. So that kind of led me to be like, maybe like this low impact working out thing where you feel good in your body and you walk and you do some light exercise or move your body in a way that just feels good. That's the key for them over there. They don't have like a rigorous training program, or unless you're in a sport like soccer or like polo, water polo, things like that. Like you're not really at your sport all day. So that was very, very intriguing to me, coming back to the States.
Yeah. And you said you were doing rehab. Was that from like rehabbing your time from dance and from gymnastics? You were doing low impact. Is that what that means?
Yeah, I was actually kind of beat up after gymnastics. I was only like 19 and I had 2 bad rotator cuff injuries.
Oh, no.
And my back was hurting. My knees were hurting. I was having to get like a sports massage every week at one point.
Wow.
Which is expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
And obviously not everyone can do that, but I was just like trying to hold on for dear life. And I met this woman that introduced me to Pilates, and she helped me heal in like 3 months. I mean, I was at the point where I was going to need surgery for both shoulders. And she's like, no, like, let me show you the way. Let me show you what Pilates can do for you. And so I was in like a class of like, all my friends in class were like 60, 70 years old, like using it for rehab. And I was like, I kind of love it here. Like, and I don't have to overly extend myself how I did in gymnastics. I can just do functional movement that makes me feel good and get the same results, if not better.
And this was the classes in Italy?
This was just before Italy. This was in Utah, and there was only 1 or 2 people that did this type of Pilates where I lived. And then I went abroad, and I actually came back and there was nowhere to do it. So I moved to Oahu, Hawaii.
I have a funny story. It's much longer, but that's where I met my wife.
You what?
I met my wife in Oahu.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, we got married there last year.
That's incredible. Congrats.
Thank you.
I met this amazing woman there that taught on the North Shore, and she let me kind of just shadow her and work a couple hours here and there. She didn't have a ton of like work for me to do, but I did some Pilates classes, and I'm like, this woman is amazing. I want this community. She had the coolest set of clients, and people just love to move their body. So after that, I came back to Utah with the same problem. I was like, there's still nothing for me here that's like that. So I'm going to have to create it. Like, I'm going to have to be the person that just makes it happen. And that's kind of how everything started.
Wow. I love that. I feel like Hawaii is also another one of those places where I spent quite a bit of time there, where it's also kind of like Europe. You're eating a lot, but you're really mobile. You're outside, you're going to the beach, you're surfing, you're hiking, and you just feel really great compared to, being back in, I guess, the continental US, where we might not have as healthy of habits.
Totally. And those people, like, they like to push themselves. Like, everyone I met in Hawaii, it was very interesting. They loved to move. They just did a workout class. They'd already surfed in the morning, and then they still wanted to come to Pilates. And I was like, wow, like that's pretty cool. Like, they're very invested in themselves. And
Yeah.
I want a place like that where I live.
Cool. So you had the idea for, I want this community where I live in Utah. What are the next steps? What do you do to start this journey of creating your own Pilates studio?
I wish I could say I had great timing, but I did not have great timing. I was finishing up my degree in St. George, Utah, where I live. And I was like, I want to open this studio. This was about 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started looking for the plans, like, where to set up, how does someone even go about finding a space? Luckily, a lot of my family has been in business, all different sorts. So they were very helpful. And, this is actually how you find a place to rent, and then you have to build it out. And I was like, what do you mean? It's not just ready? It's not set up?
Yeah.
It was very nerve-wracking. I was at the time 23, dealing with like contractors and electricians and landlords and all this stuff that I was so not ready for. But it turned out that the build out was taking longer than I had anticipated. So it was bleeding into 2020.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I
So
see.
anticipated starting January of 2020, and then boom, COVID hits. But I already was paying rent from the beginning of February.
Of 2020.
Yeah.
No.
So that was a challenge.
And did you sign, I guess, a few months earlier, and then you had a few months to build it out, and then February is when you started the lease after the abatement period?
Exactly. They're like, this is the date when you gotta start paying rent. Like, we do all the renovations and stuff like that. But I had originally planned for something much bigger. My first instinct was like, I want this to be a wellness studio because I love saunas, I loved cryo, I loved massage, all this stuff. But so I originally named it Symmetry Studios, and then it was meant to be Symmetry Studios Pilates, Symmetry Studios Social Club, that sort of thing. So big dream. And then I realized in 2020, I'm like, I gotta pivot, I gotta shift. We gotta just make it the Pilates studio. We'll build out the rooms or fill them, I guess, later. And so I ended up changing my name to just Symmetry Pilates at that point. And I was like, you know what, July of 2020, we gotta go. I can't be sitting here with no people.
And you were paying rent since February to July, and you couldn't even open.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
That was like nerve-wracking.
How big was the space, and roughly how much is rent in St. George, Utah?
It's changed a lot, especially since 2020. St. George, Utah was one of the #1 fastest growing cities in the United States, actually.
Whoa.
And so what rent began as was not what it is now. I mean, there's so many people, they just knew like, oh, people are coming here. They want the space. They're going to up the rent and whatnot. So I have a 3,100 square foot roughly place.
Oh, that's quite big.
Which is big for a Pilates studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the time, I got so lucky. I was like, oh my God, it's on the street. It has these gorgeous windows that you can see out and all this greenery. And that was doable for me at the time. Obviously, as the years went on, like 2021, 2022, they can raise the rent based on like the market and things like that, which I also didn't know about.
Oh, you didn't negotiate in fixed increases in the rent.
It was negotiated, but there's certain factors that if the market goes up, you can go up a percentage, right? Within that. So they were smart. They had that planned. I obviously didn't know what the heck any of these numbers meant. I'm
Sure.
like, this number looks great. I can do this, whatever. So I still feel very lucky. I think people starting out now would even have a much harder time finding a place as big as mine for what I have negotiated it to. But yeah, in the beginning, it was like they were a little lenient because of COVID. Everyone had a different story. But in Utah, it opened, we opened up much sooner than everywhere else. We were only closed for probably 8 weeks, locked down, and then you kind of could feel it out, see who was willing to come work out and that sort of thing. But it definitely took me longer than that to feel comfortable. So beginning of July 2020, I fully opened.
Gotcha. And I know you said you were thinking about the cryo and saunas. Right now, it's just a Pilates space in 3,000 square feet, or is it other things too?
Exactly. It's just Pilates. And I wanted to do all these things, but at some point, you're just like, let's just be really good at what I'm good at. And that was doing Pilates and teaching clients, teaching instructors. So right now we have 8 reformers and we have 8 Wunda chairs, which is another piece of Pilates equipment. And then we have 2 private training rooms. And I ended up knocking out one of the rooms that was a massage room just to make it feel even more spacious for the clients. And I really loved that decision. That was about 2 years ago that I did that.
Cool. And how did you get the word out after you were able to open in July?
It was all word of mouth. It was like kind of like a secret society. It's like, did you know that there's Pilates going on down there?
Huh.
And it was like full neighborhoods of women that were like, this neighborhood is coming to Pilates, and this neighborhood would tell all their friends. And I mean, those clients from the beginning were amazing. I still actually have most of them at the studio still. And some days it'd be one person in class. So really they were getting private sessions for the price of a Pilates class.
Amazing. And a
So they
Pilates
weren't mad.
class is how much? Like $30, $40?
Yeah, like a drop-in class would be that, and then a private session would be, 100 something dollars. So they were coming with their friends, they got private Pilates, and that started to build the community. And I honestly did not run any ads hardly at all. I didn't even know how to market to people, so I would just tell everyone and give out like little cards that said come take a free class, and if you know, that sort of
Uh-huh.
thing.
I mean, was this like you're giving cards out on the street or at the mall, or you're telling your friends, or how did that inception start?
It was just, I mean, yeah, anyone you meet, you have to be very like vocal, I would say,
Hmm.
which was hard for me because I didn't want to feel like that person that was always talking about Pilates. But at some point, that's where you get to when you own a studio. Every person you're like, you could try Pilates or you could use Pilates. Here's my card. And so I just had to be like, have no fear and just tell everybody.
Yeah, people don't understand, I think, how the sausage is made very often in the early days. To build the early clientels when you're nobody and to always be selling, it's difficult, but it's necessary to get off the ground.
100%.
So then you told a few people they got their friends in their neighborhoods to come. What was the reception and what was the feedback that you got from your customers?
We had a lot of, I would say, different clients in the beginning. It shifts every year. It's very interesting. But in the beginning, it was a lot of our demographic was moms, some that had just had babies, some that had kids that were leaving for college. We also are a retirement community in a sense. St. George was for a very long time. So we had some 60, 70, even 80-year-old clients coming into group.
Hmm.
And I think at first it was tough for people to understand. They didn't, what this was, even though I knew like LA, New York, all these places had been popping
Yeah.
off with Pilates. I was trying to describe to them and honestly just show them. Like we have a free class that's their first intro. And if you can get people to come to the intro, that's when they really understand what it is because they start to feel it in their body, even in 30 minutes. They're like, huh, like this is different. And I like the way that this feels. So just getting them in there and letting them try it, really.
Yeah. And do you lean into a particular style? Because I know that for you, Pilates was a method to ease your pain that you're having. Is that an area that you focus on, or what type of Pilates do you lean into?
We are I would say more of an education-based studio. So we host a certain Pilates studios training called Bassi Pilates, which is a very well-known, very rigid, structured, precise Pilates program. And I love having all of my teachers go through that first because it really teaches you where Pilates started, which was about control and precision and flow as well. So I have all of them go through my training, but then we also all love to do continuing education. So it is a blend of all the different types of Pilates that we've ever done. And the basis of it is educating people. So whether you're here for rehab, whether you're here to tone your muscles or whatever, we are going to educate you on how to do that to the best of your ability because we know that everyone's in Pilates for different reasons.
Yeah.
And not everybody likes to have Pilates that feels like boot camp or Pilates that is extremely slow, right? People may have been in both types. So we're very in the middle of just technique, education, breath work, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. And how many employees did you have when you started? And how are you spending your time to date?
I started with 2 really amazing employees. It was them and then me, 2 teachers. So the 3 of us just held up the team. That worked for us for a long time. But then I realized how big this was going to be. And I started training teachers and had becoming a host studio for Bassi Pilates, which really catapulted us into being able to add on so many more teachers. So right now I have 5 Pilates instructors, 1 bar teacher, and front desk staff, admin staff, that sort of thing. But for the longest time, it was me wearing every single hat you could possibly wear.
Which is oftentimes the case
Yeah,
with businesses.
too much. I was doing too much.
And how many classes do you offer per day? And what's the reception like nowadays?
People really want options. So we try to give as many options as we can. We start at 6 a.m. We go into the mid-afternoon, usually around the 1:30 to 3:30 time. We host private sessions, and then we go into the evening classes. A lot of our clients are teachers or nurses or even just moms that can't get done with everything until 5:36. So we like to have a blend of the morning and the evening for everybody.
Which times are more popular? Is it the weekends and then I guess after work and before work?
Yeah, it's loaded up. All of them. I mean, like I said, it's so nice. We have all types of people. So, I mean, there's wait lists at every time.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah,
you're fully booked all the time.
fully booked. Yeah.
That's great. That's really
Yeah,
great.
they begged me to open the second one,
A second studio.
the second studio. Yeah, in St. George.
Wow. That's impressive. And I mean, your space is so big, you could probably fit more reformer machines in there, or is it now like divided up into certain areas? You would actually have to open another physical space for another studio.
I think this is a great question. I always wanted to have a small boutique studio. Max amount of reformers that I want is 8. That could change one day, maybe in a different space, but I feel like 8 is such an amazing number because you can still see everybody, correct them, give them modifications versus a studio that has 10, 12, 15 reformers,
Yeah.
like way harder to have control of their bodies and help them through the exercises. So even though I could fit more, I've chosen to keep the space very open, airy, and focused on a small group.
Yeah, and that's probably a better experience for your customers too. Yeah, I've spoken to a few other Pilates studio owners. They say around the 8 to 10 range is sort of the max that they would do. And some are saying that more than that could even be dangerous for people if they're not using the machines correctly.
Yeah, 100%. I think the industry has changed a lot since I opened my studio, and I think social media makes it look very easy. I'm sure with so many industries, but it does get to a point where it can become dangerous if you don't have a fully trained, highly trained staff and you go over this threshold of how many people you can have in a group, because we're about one person watching 15 people do, this exercise on a machine. It can get crazy in there. I've seen it all.
I'm sure. Well, that's really amazing that in just a couple of years you're fully booked now. What were some of the challenges that you faced to get to this point?
Say some of my biggest challenges are mostly from the admin side. I think a lot of things that people don't see, which is dealing with software issues, or I've gone through 3 different software companies since I opened.
Like booking software?
Booking software.
Which one do you use now?
I use Arquetta.
Okay. And you
And
recommend them?
I would recommend them. They
Okay.
offer now, we've just launched an on-demand platform, and I really wanted my clients to be able to have something on the go when they travel. We have a lot of people that leave town or are snowbirds and things like that. So I didn't want them to have to use multiple apps or a confusing booking software. I wanted the Symmetry Pilates app, and you can do it in person or on demand. And the software I have now is very good for that. But it
That's
did
really
took us
cool.
a while to get there.
You said it's called Arquetta, and then they also give you a mobile app that you can upload on-demand classes onto?
Yeah, you can use their platform for multiple different things. I think that's a misconception of what people don't understand about software as well, is you pay for, say, Mind Body, which is what a lot of people start with, and that was my second software. And there's so much that costs, there's so many add-ons. So you can start with the basic plan and everybody books on the same thing. But if you want your own app and you want your own identity from that software, you're going to pay a lot more.
Yeah.
And if you want on-demand features, you're going to pay a lot more. So we pay like, the highest price for the software, but because I want it to run smoothly for the clients. And I've seen how difficult it can be having the wrong software. And so now I'm just all in with like a software that works and people that are there to support you if there's glitches.
That's good to know. I also own a couple photo studios, and we switched booking softwares in the beginning as well. We're on Acuity now. We don't require a mobile app, it works well for us. But I remember making the switch and then switching all the customers over, and how much of a headache that was. And like, I was so nervous that people wouldn't be able to book because there were already people scheduled on the old software that I needed to migrate to the new software, and would the appointments line up? So having to do it 3 times for you, I'm sure that was a pretty nerve-wracking experience.
Yeah, which you can tell they probably didn't tell you in the beginning how much of it would be manual.
They want to
They
keep you
make it
locked in. They don't
they
want
make
you to
it
leave.
seem easy. They make it seem like, oh, if you're going to switch apps, you just come over to us and we'll help you out. And that took years off my life doing the second app transfer, because at that point we had about 2,500 accounts accumulated.
Wow.
And so much of that was manual. I would recommend anyone who's going to do the switch, if you're not loving your software, do it in the beginning. Find something you love, because 5 years down the line, switching your software, it's a big thing. So
Yeah. I'm curious, for your mobile app, is it just for customers who have come to your studio, or is it available for other people that haven't been to your studio as well?
it's available for everyone. We launched the on-demand version in February of this year. So anyone, anywhere can access Symmetry workouts. We offer mat and reformer Pilates on there. We also have some stretching and some lifestyle videos. I really wanted people to be able to access our teaching style and our attention to detail from anywhere, because I know that there's a lot of people doing Pilates, but it's nice to know that the people who you're taking from, whether it's online or in person, have extensive training and have, certifications to back it. Like I said, everyone in my studio certifies through the same certification. Even if they were already certified, they do a second cert, and they do continuing ed, and they do so much training that, like, I wanted people to have access to something like that.
That's really cool. When did you launch the app, and how much does it account for in terms of your revenue?
We launched it in February of this year. Well, the app itself for the studio in St. George, Utah was switched over last October. It's made everything so much more seamless for our clients. And then we added Symmetry on Demand in February
I see.
of this year, but it's a lot different. It's like a whole new step in business of figuring out, how do you not just market to the people that are in front of you, but now we need to market to the whole world.
Yeah.
And how do you get your word out there and have the manpower to do something like that?
How do you do it?
I'm figuring it out. I've realized that it can't be just me. That's the way I started, and that's where a lot of entrepreneurs start. But I think hiring people as soon as you can who are good at their job is the tip I would give to anyone. Like, hire your team as soon as you have the funds, as soon as you can afford it, to help you create a big dream. Otherwise, you're going to get run down and it's a lot to manage.
What do you think are the key hires that you're missing now to take it to, I guess, the next step?
For me, I would say social media has become like a huge part of everyone's business. I'm sure you can relate. Like now you not only have to create a great product, but you have to figure out how to market it and stand out amongst everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the biggest challenge is finding a social media team that can help facilitate the growth of that. So I'm still in the search of, is there someone that can be an extension of me in the way that I want to portray symmetry to the world that can do what I do, but on a much larger, scale. So
Totally.
still in the works.
No, content is so important nowadays, and capturing attention is so difficult because there is so much content out there, and then you have to differentiate and spend so much time editing and thinking of concepts. I think it's definitely a full-time job in and of itself.
Yeah. So I praise all the founders who are creating content and running pretty much a social influencing campaign. Like we're all influencers at this point, just trying to keep up with everybody out there. And so, it is a big job, but I think it does bring like this fun, creative side to the business where you can make videos and visuals and kind of show why you're different on social media.
Yeah. And I'm curious for your space outside of the machines, how did you pick out the furniture and the design and the renovation? Did you do that yourself or work with agencies?
I am not a designer. I love to say, like, my mom, she came in and she's like, let me help you. So it's definitely part of her design and what she likes. She's a very minimalist, modern person. So a lot of like chrome, black mixed in with the wood. So I feel like it's a very pretty space. Nothing's too overwhelming. But I've noticed as I've grown and I've figured out what my eye for design is, like I slowly switch pieces out. And we could use a different kind of energy here or that sort of thing. But in the beginning, you kind of you got to fill the space with where do people going to sit?
Yeah.
Where are they going to, what mirror, what sign, so she was a huge help for that. She loves design and things like that. But I think if I was to design another space, definitely would go the interior designer route because it's going to last you so long and really embody what you want people to feel when they come in.
Totally. Yeah, I heard that. I forgot who said this, but when you have a physical space or you're providing a service in a physical space, your space is part of the product. So it's so important to, pick out the right pieces and convey what you want through your design.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what they see when they first come in. So there's a lot of things I've changed since the beginning of just what would I want to see when I go into a luxury boutique Pilates studio? What do I want to feel? And I think that comes with time and growing up, I'm not 23 like when I started. We changed out some of the pictures and some of the things like that. So
And that's, I assume, how you found our signs as well.
yes. Yeah. You guys got the marketing. You got me. I was like, these are really cool. And I have a guy in town that does stickers. And so anytime I do an event, I have the heavy mirror sign. And every time we do a Pilates event now, we know whether it's Lululemon or we have a evening event or whoever we're partnering with, we brand the sign and people love it. They love to take pictures in it.
That's cool. And you switch out the stickers with your sign writer?
Yep, with whatever event that we're doing. So like we're doing a new series called Symmetry After Dark, which is kind of like nervous system reset, that sort of thing. And we just take the sign and redo the decals and everything like that. But people love it. People love to take pictures in it. So
I'm so glad to hear that. How important are events for you in terms of doing them at other locations or working with cool local businesses?
It's become a huge part of my brand because it helps you connect with everyone in the community, even if they can't come into your space at that current moment. We've worked with a lot of local brands. We've done events with Lululemon, which has helped get us like a lot of exposure and move and do different things in different spaces because changing it up from just being in the studio, it makes it feel like even bigger. So we do many events throughout the year, whether it's the winery or the local beach club and things like that. So it's big for us.
That's really cool. And for these events, are you outreaching to these other businesses to say like, hey, we should do something, or is it them reaching out to you, or a combination of both?
Usually it's a combination depending on, who wants to facilitate the partnership, but it is still relatively a small town. So we have the people that work for certain brands are coming in to actually just do their practice at Symmetry, and they fall in
Mm,
love with it, and they're like, "Wait, I own a business. Let's do something together." And so it's really organic a lot of the time.
that's awesome. What does your day to day look like today versus I think when you first started, you were doing a lot of teaching, doing a lot of everything. Now that you've hired a few more, where are you focusing your time on?
My time currently is more about balance, if you can say that. I went on 110% for the last 4 years of just like pure drive and ambition and everything, adrenaline, honestly.
Yeah.
So since I started my new app and have kind of have things more structured, I've been focusing more on scaling the business, taking time for myself to work out, to meditate. I do all of my Pilates workouts on my own app. So it's kind of fun to get to use this thing that I've created. Right now I'm just focusing on building a really strong team, and by the time this comes out, we probably will also have gone through, it's a rebrand, but we also like to call it an upgrade. So we're actually transitioning to a new logo, new colors, new
Cool.
visions, and all that stuff. So that's been my focus for probably the last 6 months.
Awesome. For other people who are interested in opening a Pilates studio in their own town, I'm curious what advice you'd have for them.
This is a great question. I think now at where I'm at in my business, I would say have 3 times more the money than you originally planned is going to be very expensive. Not that it's not doable. I think also people with a dream, you will find a way to make it happen. And what I wish I would have done in the beginning is lean on my community a little more. I definitely thought I got to do everything myself. This is on me. And there's so many people that want you to succeed. So if you know someone locally that can help you set up the business, help you start an LLC, help you understand what it's really going to take, or like a mentor, reach out to people. I think there's a lot of people that would have helped me in the beginning, but I just didn't know to ask.
Yeah. That's honestly part of a reason why I wanted to start this podcast because I feel like there's a lot of resources out there for other types of industries, but for brick and mortar, it's a little bit lacking. When I was starting my photo studio, I didn't know anything about TI or abatement or how to look for spaces or think about design and um, to hear from successful founders like yourself who have opened a brick and mortar space is really cool and hopefully insightful for them.
Yeah, I think if I had the access to what I have now with, even just the internet and where we're at today, like it would have probably I would have made different decisions, but I'm so proud that I just put my back into it, not knowing what I'm doing. And truthfully, you can create anything if you just have like that drive and that heart for it.
Yeah. So I know that you have the app and that's a focus area for you. Are you thinking of also opening a second location as well?
I think yes, it's definitely something I want to do. I think I'd love to go in the direction of just continuing to help people with their longevity and, how does working out in your 20s and 30s look different from when you're 40 and 50 and when you're 60 and 70, and creating a full wellness experience that involves recovery and, putting time into yourself, not just for 50 minutes, but maybe, somewhere that people can hang out a little bit longer and enjoy the space that they're in together.
Yeah. Is there a chance that you want to do the cryotherapy and the sauna and the other pieces that you had originally thought of?
I think the possibilities are kind of like endless at this point. I think just when I feel it and the time is right, I'll know, this is what I really want in my space. I've been really into red light therapy, not as much cryo. I've realized that I'm more of a warm heat person than a cool person. So, sauna, red light, massage, all those things, I think definitely I could see in my next space.
That's super exciting. So, looking back on your journey over the last 4 or 5 years, I know that you mentioned you would have leaned into your community a bit more, but is there anything else that you would have done differently with sort of this hindsight vision?
I would say like key takeaways would be very in tune with yourself. You can't please everyone and you never will. And I spend a lot of time, trying to make everything perfect. And I think truthfully, the right people will come to you and the right clients and the right staff will want to work for you and will be aligned with your vision. Just know that not everything is going to go perfectly, but if you stay true to who you are and why you started this business, then everything kind of flows seamlessly, and you can cope with the lows, because there's going to be highs.
Yeah. If people are interested in reaching out or learning more about you and Symmetry, what's the best way for them to get in contact?
We have a lot of connections on social media. So my Instagram is Sheridan St. And then we have the symmetry.pilates Instagram. And we also have symmetrypilates.com where you can have access to the app and things like that. We're in the App Store. So if you even just want to try the on-demand workouts for a free trial, you can download the Symmetry Pilates app. But I do a lot of stuff through Instagram and things like that, just helping new founders and new Pilates instructors kind of see, where can they really take this thing.
We'll include a link to all those in our show notes. And yeah, I love your Instagram and your Pilates page Instagram. Is that all you right now? You're posting everything?
Yes. Yep. I
Oh my
run
gosh.
currently still 4 Instagrams. So we have Symmetry Active. I also made a clothing line last year. So Symmetry Active, Symmetry On Demand, Symmetry Pilates, and then Symmetry Social. And then my personal account. So 5 actually.
Are you using a content calendar, or how are you managing this?
More of the type B personality when it comes to social media. So when I get that spark of creativity, I'm like, boom. Usually in the morning, I start with social media right when I wake up, whether it's already been planned and scheduled or, that sort of thing. I would like to transition into more of the content creator, social media team space, but I just haven't found the right person yet. But I know that when I find them, they're going to do an amazing job at, being an extension of me.
Well, Sheridan, thanks so much for taking the time. This is really awesome. And I'm sure a lot of people interested in Pilates and brick and mortar will be really excited to hear this. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been amazing.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to visit openingsoonpodcast.com for all of our episodes online. If you run a retail store and need updated furniture or signage, please feel free to visit www.signsandmirrors.com. Lastly, if you have any feedback or like to be a guest on the show, email me at alan, ALAN, @signsandmirrors.com. I promise I'll respond. Thanks for listening.